Women of Reddit, what do you think would be the worst thing about being a man? Being expected to be more effective at physical labor, being expected to do more dangerous work, receiving less empathy when struggling with emotional issues. My wife literally came home one night and told me she was leaving for another man, took my money and filed for divorce. She also took and kept the dog. I was allowed one day off from work to deal with it, our court date. If I even slightly mentioned it, people would go silent. And it's 6 months later and everyone expects me to be completely over it. It's torture. Only one orgasm at a time. Honestly, probably people just assuming that you'll do all of the gross shit that no one else wants to do. Fixing up the car, unclogging the toilet, cleaning out the spider webs in the attic, scrubbing the mildew out of the bathtub. Guys are just expected to do it all without complaint because that's the manly thing to do. As a woman, I find it pretty unfair. Alongside that are hiding a people assuming that you can't have mental illnesses, disorders, not being allowed to cry, show emotions, be insecure about your body. All of it is really unfair. I'm sorry guys. Having to be the person physically in charge in a threatening situation, like always being with a man when walking home from a party in a sketchy area at night. Yes, there is safety in numbers, but the dude is expected to be protective regardless of level of awareness, self-defensive, or drunkenness. That's a lot of pressure. Probably being forced to never, well, feel. There are so many people who make fun of guys for having feelings or even showing them. I would never be able to deal with it. And my heart broke the day my boyfriend told me his exes used to verbally abuse him for crying in front of them. Probably the stigma. I've seen a single father get shouted at for being with his kid when at a park for trying to kidnap children. The dude wanted to make his son happy, not molest him FFS. It's kind of annoying walking my dog around town and having to straight up ignore every kid. Don't talk to them. Don't look at them. Halloween is the only day out of the year that I get to talk to the kids in my neighborhood. People expecting that I could fight. Man, my ex-girlfriend chatting to some scary guy on a train who was acting out, and then just turning to me with a, "Are you going to let him speak to me like that?" look on her face when she pissed him off enough. Dude would have me up if I wasn't so good at being diplomatic. I would not be allowed a moment of weakness. Bad day. You can't cry unless your mother just died. Hurt yourself. Suck it up and go to the hospital. Feeling self-conscious about your body. Nobody cares. Feeling ill. Someone has a man cold. Imagine pretty much being invisible. Nobody cares about you. Nobody messages you. And when someone calls they want something from you. Now I don't mind helping. But damn, call me up for a beer or some camping too sometime. Didn't really need a reminder about how sad my life is right now. Not having your emotions taken seriously, then lashing out because of it and then seen as violent because you just want to be understood. I had that with abusive parents, but normally people don't treat me that way because I'm a woman. I can't imagine what an entire life of not having your feelings acknowledged in a healthy way feels like. Suck it up and be a man. Having an even harsher reaction when I go against gender roles. I mean, as a woman, there's backlash sometimes. But there's a whole movement very publicized that tells me that I can do whatever I want. And the naysayer. I don't feel a man that would want to do something for girls or for women as that much support. Being a father of a daughter or even babysitting. The complete mistrust that people give them is astonishing. If she starts throwing a tantrum in public, people always assume the worst. I would want my daughter to give my husband hugs and love him the same as she would love me in public, but people just view it differently. Edit. Yes, I am in the US. This is not a new concept, nor is it just located here but also in other countries. From other stories down below. This was happening at least 20 years ago when it happened to my dad too. Everyone should love their kids, and we do need strong male role models. I am so happy for all the love that people are throwing around about their kids. Brag away. Even if this judgment does happen, you are a good father and nothing anyone else does will change that. Not being able to take care of children without getting dirty looks. God. This. I've always been good with kids. but when I mentioned to my guidance counselor in high school that I might be interested in going into some kind of childcare field, her response was, "Aren't you worried what people might think?" I wish I had been secure enough to not care, but that really stuck with me to the extent that I stopped even considering it. Being in a crowded urinal. Everyone has the out standing next to each other. Like, what the just make stalls, why have them in the open? Hands down, always being the villain. A colleague of mine was a bit on the heavier side, but decided to get into shape and started jogging. So he jogs around his block daily until his smartwatch tells him his quota for the day is full. That day he was a bit late but went for a jog when the sun was setting. Not many people out there, but as he was on his way, some girls saw him jogging their way, got scared and called the cops on him for obviously trying to chase them to them or something. Now, the guy didn't know about the call. He just sees two girls seeing him coming, turning around and running away, and he's like, "What the until the cops come for him. You know, for the biggest offense in the whole human history, trying to get fit. I felt really bad for him. I thought this article hit some of the highlights. Crossing the divide. Do men really have it easier? Here are some excerpts. I emphasized the parts that leaped out at me. Tristan Cotton, 50, Berkeley, California. A couple of years after my transition, I had a grad student I'd been mentoring. She started coming on to me, stalking me, sending me emails and texts. My advisor and the dean, both women, laughed it off. It went on for the better part of a year, and that was the year that I was going up for tenure. It was a very scary time. I felt very worried that if the student felt I was not returning her attention, she would claim that I had assaulted her. I felt like as a guy, I was not taken seriously. I had experienced harassment as a female person at another university, and they had reacted immediately, sending a police escort with me to and from campus. I felt like if I had still been in my old body, I would have gotten a lot more support. Xander Cade, 52, San Diego, California. Prior to my transition, I was an outspoken radical feminist. I spoke up often, loudly and with confidence. I was encouraged to speak up. I was given awards for my efforts. Literally, it was like, "Oh, yeah, speak up, speak out." When I speak up now, I am often given the direct or indirect message that I am mansplaining, taking up too much space, or asserting my white male heterosexual privilege. I do notice that some women do expect me to acquiesce or concede to them more now. Let them speak first. Let them board the bus first. Let them sit down first. And so on. What continues to strike me is the significant reduction in friendliness and kindness now extended to me in public spaces. It now feels as though I am on my own. No one, outside of family and close friends, is paying any attention to my well-being. I can recall a moment where this difference hit home. A couple of years into my medical gender transition, I was traveling on a public bus early one weekend morning. There were 6 people on the bus, including me. One was a woman. She was talking on a mobile phone very loudly and remarked that men are such a holes. I immediately looked up at her and then around at the other men. Not one had lifted his head to look at the woman or anyone else. The woman saw me look at her and then commented to the person she was speaking with about some hole on the bus right now looking at me. I was stunned, because I recalled being in similar situations. But in the reverse, many times, a man would say or do something deemed obnoxious or offensive, and I would find solidarity with the women around me as we made eye contact, rolled our eyes and maybe even commented out loud on the situation. I'm not sure I understand why the men did not respond, but it made a lasting impression on me. Chris Edwards, 49, Boston, Massachusetts. Here's an example. I'm driving with one of my best friends, Beth, and I ask her, "Is your sister meeting us for dinner?" 10 minutes later she's still talking and I still have no idea if her sister is coming. So finally, I couldn't take it anymore, and I snapped and said, "Is she coming or not?" It's definitely true that some male behavior is governed by hormones. Instead of listening to a woman's problem and being empathetic and nodding along, I would do the stereotypical guy thing, interrupt and provide a solution to cut the conversation short and move on. Being abused in public by a woman and having people laugh instead of intervening to help you. Also, the whole "to be a man you have to act a certain way" brutal. Being considered a possible threat by strangers. Probably. Like, I get it. You never know. But it would probably suck. Either that or the and balls. Like, they're just dangling there. Are they in the way? How do you straddle stuff? Will you accidentally squish them? Do you have to tuck them into your underwear? Most women think there's nothing wrong with being abusive and cruel with men. It's so upsetting watching women treat men like absolute shit. To top it off, men are expected to still act like a gentleman, and also they're not allowed to feel vulnerable, or to feel sad, angry because some lady was just a little sassy when in reality she was being abusive piece of shit.